And since then I've now studied to become a psychotherapist. So I'm now seeing clients in prisons that have committed serious crimes and talking to them. So, I mean, you can do something that is being positive. There are loads of things to do that are being positive, and I've just found the psychotherapy, which I think is being positive. It's making a positive change.
I guess for a crowd that is doing things that we want to do in a way, I'd like to help kids, but I don't have the qualifications. So, yeah,
because you can take the steps to do that, can't you, if you want to?
Yeah, but that's like a lot of money and I don't have it, and a lot of people really struggle with their kids, and I'd like to help kids, but there's all this like pedophilia shit that's gone down, which means that adults can't help kids. They just can't. There has to be this huge buffer between us and children, between strangers and children, and it's really sad because people really struggle with it. So I'd really like to help kids, but that's what you're asking for, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically what I was going to say, relating to everything, because like as we probably know, all things are interconnected, you know, we don't have the time to do things that we would love to do or would be truly productive and beneficial for society, because we're just basically trapped into survival mode, aren't we? The system traps us into survival mode, and we really don't have the choice to live how we would like to live or how we should live, because we've got to pay the bills, haven't we? And we've got to eat something, and we've got to clothe ourselves. So, you know, it's really hard for us to really be as good people as we can or should be, you know, and like you can't really blame people for that, can you? And especially with the way that we're kind of like indoctrinated by the media to just think about, I mean, you ask what would I like to be doing, probably having more sex and taking more drugs is often in my mind, you know what I mean? But I know in my morality tells me that that is like totally the incorrect, you know, that's a total diversion of energy, you know what I mean? It's a diversion of positivity, and I know that, but it's just I've grown up as like, that's my idea of fun, do you know what I mean? And like kids are just like learning that more and more now. I mean, it's all been going on forever, hasn't it? We're just taught to consume day in, day out, and we're taught to like think about ourselves and be selfish in that way and just like look after number one, and we almost have no choice but to do anything other than that, you know? Yeah. So I think really it boils down to a simple thing that we're all like, you know, the consumer society, the media, the monetary system, that's what's causing all the problems for everybody, you know. And I think that, you know, if maybe a group like this could like have a clear focus on like, let's like find an alternative to the monetary system. Do you know what I mean? Because I see you guys, you've got this issue and that issue and this issue and that issue, and that's fine. And each one of you has what is it? You personal things that you feel strongly about, and that's also fine. But it's like, if you're talking about, you know, tax evasion and that, well, you're saying, well, it's all right to pay taxes. That tax is a good idea, and I don't believe that personally. So,
okay.
Well, tax avoidance, whatever.
So I think there's always a struggle.
That's one of the big issues, isn't it?
Yeah. There's a struggle, I think, between sort of being in or being a protest movement and taking protest action and being a social movement, and what it means to be a social movement, which often means not being that visible on the streets that often, because you're putting a lot of time and energy into very unglamorous, very unspectacular day-to-day support work and solidarity work with people. And I want to talk a bit about Fuel Poverty Action. This is a group that I'm part of. It's been going for 4 years. We came out of climate camp. We came out of something which is a little bit like this, in that we were taking space, we were protesting, we were taking action. We're very action-orientated, quite media-orientated, but the idea was always to actually physically confront some part of the fossil fuel industry. But in the sense of how we are here and how we're talking and how, you know, our sort of anti-capitalist principles, that was very present in climate camp. But we felt, when it kind of ended, that we're still not, we haven't really reached that many ordinary people. You know, we're quite a strong activist movement, but we are not that, we're not making climate change a kitchen table issue or an understandable issue. We're not sort of showing it as a social relationship. And we're not talking to people enough or dealing with fuel poverty in this country, and also the systemic change that we need. Like, fuel poverty action is not just about coffee mornings with pensioners, which is what we do as well. It is about bringing about systemic change, which is, on the energy level, bringing energy under public and community control. Because if you look at fuel poverty, it's basically poverty. What we're talking about is poverty and people not being able to pay their bills. And your energy bill is a huge part of your life. And if you can't pay it, you shouldn't have to pay such a massive bill. But if you can't pay it, then, you know, if you're on a prepayment meter, you can't turn the light on, you can't turn the fridge on, you can't have the toaster on. You know, children who grow up in fuel-poor households are 5 times more likely to suffer from mental health issues or concentration issues. It's hard to do your homework in a freezing, damp house. And so, this also relates to housing. You know, this whole Green Deal, or the green crap, as the government has called it, I mean, there's some good stuff in it, but it's not actually accessible or available really to people who are in private rented accommodation, because it's not even, you don't get free insulation, you have to pay for it, and then you have to, you know, you run up a debt, and you're not going to do that if you're a private renter. And in this city, the housing standards are so shocking. A lot of people don't want to complain about the damp and the cold in their house because they fear they might get evicted. So, but this is an issue. This people are paying over the odds. People are really suffering, and it is to us the kind of on the body felt impact of climate change, capitalism, a fossil fuel market energy system that we experience in our homes, but we're all very isolated with it. So what we're trying to do with Fuel Poverty Action is to break this isolation, get people out of behind closed doors, because it is, you know, affecting people, you know, you feel alone in your house, and to get behind the Energy Bill of Rights, which is one thing. I mean, there's many other things we can be doing, but what we're doing, we're launching it in there. On Monday, tomorrow. Caroline Lucas and John McDonnell have tabled an early day motion, which is kind of based on the Bill of Rights. And what the Bill of Rights says basically is we've got the right to energy, we've got the right to safe, clean energy, we've got the right to not be cut off from energy, we've got the right to not have a prepayment meter imposed on us, we've got the right to not have fracking or any other destructive energy happening in our backyards. We've got the right to refuse that. We've got the right as communities to say no to that. And we've got the right to a safe climate, and that's everybody. So it's about trying to reassert our right to a commons, and you know, we need to be able to do that in a clear way, in a coherent way, in a way that makes sense to people sitting at home, looking at their energy bill and thinking, fuck, you know, I can't pay this, you know. And it's at that point where you've got to be able to say, well, you shouldn't have to actually. It's too bloody much, and they're making a killing out of us, these big 6 energy companies, and actually 70% of the people in this country want energy to come under public control. So like there's a democratic mandate there. Sorry.
What websites can they actually
well,
look at, you know, to actually
it's fuelpovertyaction.org.uk, but what I'm trying to show is that I feel like we need to do the sort of small, unspectacular stuff, which is the coffee mornings with pensioners, with disabled people, with people who are at the sharpest end of fuel poverty. We need to occupy British Gas. We did that a few years ago. We need to, you know, we need to be trying to stop prepayment meters being imposed on people against their will. There are like 100,000 imposed on people against their will by court order, by bailiffs. Every year, 100,000. That is about 300 a day, and they can break into your home. And this is happening, and people, it's not getting in the media, you know, people suffering bad housing and bad energy deals, like Carlisle. We've got someone coming from Carlisle from the Riverside Housing Association, and this was a solar project, right, for this housing association. It was going to be really wonderful and renewable, but it wasn't owned by the residents. This is the key to everything. We have to own it, we have to own it, we have to control it. And so this housing association put the solar panels on the north-facing roofs of the buildings. So they weren't working, and they also got really massive industrial boilers, so everyone's bills doubled. They're paying £2,000 a year. They're up in arms, they've tried everything. There's been allegations of corruption because the wife of the local councillor is on the board of Riverside Housing Association. People have been intimidated, people have been told it's your fault, you leave the windows open, and people are really suffering and they're trapped in this situation. And this is not like mainstream news media story, right? It's one group of residents who are fighting back and have formed their own organisation. It's called Longtown Action for Heat. And this is one group of many, and I think we need to be really supporting these kind of initiatives, these grassroots initiatives. And I think it's also really important for us to get involved with resisting workfare, because this is like one of the clearest examples. Like, it's not just an attack on people who are on benefits, or, you know, it's not just an attack on unemployed people, it's an attack on employed people as well, because if a company, if Poundland or Primark or whoever else is practicing workfare, and there's a whole lot of them, if they can take someone from the job centre for £1 an hour, why are they going to give you a job, you know? And that's what they're doing. So it's also a way of union busting as well. How do you organise in a workfare workplace when half the workforce is on £1 an hour and the other is on minimum wage? You know, it's really difficult. It's one of the most violent expressions of the race to the bottom in this country. And, you know, there is a group, boycott work.
It's really good that what you just said there, because a lot of people, you know, these normal people, whatever, they're missing the point that it's not actually the people on benefits necessarily that are suffering. I mean, I understand that many of them are. I know certainly about what you've done with Deepak and that, and they're obviously, you know, and the people that you were just talking about where you're dying hungry and they're getting sanctioned. So yes, of course, people are suffering that are in the benefit system, but actually the real problem is the people that are working, that are just being forced into a life of misery.
Yep.
And they're the ones really that, you know, are just...
So what's the answer? Collective